This hanging on, as it is called, may be something undesired by both parties, something incomprehensible and even unendurable, without necessarily being negative to life. On the contrary, it can easily be a positive hanging on, which, although it constitutes an apparently insurmountable obstacle, represents just for that reason a unique situation that demands the maximum effort and therefore enlists the energies of the whole man. In fact, one could say that while the patient is unconsciously and unswervingly seeking the solution to some ultimately insoluble problem, the art and technique of the doctor are doing their best to help him towards it. Ars totum requirit hominem. Art requires the whole man, exclaims the old alchemist. It is just this homo totus, whole man, whom we seek. The labors of the doctor, as well as the quest of the patient, are directed towards that hidden and as yet unmanifest whole man, who is at once the greater and the future man. But the right way to wholeness is made up, unfortunately, of fateful detours and wrong turnings. It is a longissima via, the longest way, not straight, but snake-like, a path that unites the opposites in a manner of the guiding caduceus, a path whose labyrinthine twists and turns are not lacking in terrors. It is on this longissima via that we meet with those experiences which are said to be inaccessible. Their inaccessibility really consists in the fact that they cost us an enormous amount of effort. They demand the very thing we most fear, namely the wholeness which we talk about so glibly and which lends itself to endless theorizing, though in actual life we give it the widest possible berth. It is infinitely more popular to go in for compartment psychology, where the left-hand pigeonhole does not know what is in the right. I am afraid that we cannot hold the unconsciousness and impotence of the individual entirely responsible for this state of affairs. It is due also to the general psychological education of the European. Not only is this education the proper concern of the ruling religions, it belongs to their very nature, for religion excels in rationalistic systems in that it alone relates to the outer and inner man in equal degree. We can accuse Christianity of arrested development if we are determined to excuse our own shortcomings, but I do not wish to make the mistake of blaming religion for something that is due mainly to human incompetence. I am speaking, therefore, not of the deepest and best understanding of Christianity, but of the superficialities and disastrous misunderstandings that are plain for all to see. The demand made by the imitatio Christi, the imitation of Christ, that we should follow the ideal and seek to become like it, ought logically to have the result of developing and exalting the inner man. In actual fact, however, the ideal has been turned by superficial and formalistically minded believers into an external object of worship, and it is precisely this veneration for the object that prevents it from reaching down to the depths of the psyche and giving the latter a wholeness in keeping with the ideal. Accordingly, the divine mediator stands outside as an image, while man remains fragmentary and untouched in the deepest part of him. Christ can indeed be imitated even to the point of stigmatization without the imitator coming anywhere near the ideal or its meaning. For it is not a question of the imitation that leaves a man unchanged and makes him into a mere artifact, but of realizing the ideal on one's own account, Deo concedente, with God's consent, in one's own individual life. We must not forget, however, that even a mistaken imitation may sometimes involve a tremendous moral effort which has all the merits of a total surrender to some supreme value, even though the real goal may never be reached and the value is represented externally. It is conceivable that by virtue of this total effort a man may even catch a fleeting glimpse of his wholeness, accompanied by a feeling of grace that always characterizes this experience.